My name is Myhangcanada, and I'm the Research and Policy Analyst for Action Weekly. And now, thank you so much for that wonderful and good performance. We now go to the panel discussion portion of our event, and I'd like to welcome our panelists, or my so-called human rights defenders, here on the stage, and I will be your panel host. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights theme for 2020 is actually called All Humanity, All Equality, and it focuses on two core principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Number one is human dignity, and second is equality under the law. Now we are asking our panelists for today, the challenge for them is how do we look at these abstract words into action? And based on their wealth of experiences, we will know some insights and tactics on how, as human rights defenders, are putting these words into action. Our focus is on essential workers in Alberta, specifically the meat packers, care workers, food supply chain workers, and others. But before we go into this, I would like to introduce each panel member. Elise Brazil is an associate organizer with the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good. As an organizer, she loves equipping and supporting leaders to take action on issues in their community and work in solidarity with other community leaders across the city to make change. She earned an MA in Public and Pastoral Leadership, specializing in Indigenous and Interreligious Studies from the Vancouver School of Theology. Prior to that, Elise was a refugee settlement worker living in community and working with refugee claimant families at a transitional housing in Toronto called Romero House. Elise worked with immigrant and refugee youth at Catholic Social Services as well. She will be able to tell you later more about her work. Vanessa Ortiz is a social studies teacher here in Calgary. Vanessa has collaborated with her community in Mexico and Canada through her work as a social justice activist. Her experience in the education sector has given Vanessa an understanding of the intersections of gender, class, race, and economic inequality, as well as the pressing need for social justice and anti-oppression action. She is a founding member of the Association of Mexicans in Calgary, or AMEXCAL, promoting and advocating for the community outreach, migrant justice, human rights, and anti-racism initiatives for Latinx Newcomers, focusing on labor rights of Mexican workers under the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program in Canada. And the last but not the least, Jay Zapata is the Secretary General of Migrante Alberta. He oversees the implementation of programs, campaigns, and activities of the organization. Migrante Alberta is a grassroots organization that mobilizes, organizes, and educates migrants and their families. Jay is an organizer, advocates and lobbies for the equal rights and protections, especially the rights and welfare of the children born to an undocumented parent in Canada. At the national level, he has worked on the campaign on the regularization of migrant workers in Canada. This campaign advocates for the protection of undocumented immigrant workers. Jay earned his degree of Bachelor of Science in Industrial Psychology in the Philippines. Please welcome our panelists. Before I go to the meat of the question that I posed to our panelists, I would like to ask them, or to introduce themselves and their work as human rights defender, and quick insights serve within the community. And then we'll go back to the main question that I will be posing later. So I'll start with Elise.
Hello everybody. So my name is Elise Braza, and I'm an organizer with the Alliance for Economic Good here. But for the last 20 years, I've been doing intercultural women and religious work in different places across the world and in different places across Canada. And where my work started, fun fact, my background is I am a painter. I have a fine arts degree. And so I came into social justice work in a very weird way through an internship working in a place called Myhangcanada in Toronto. And it was a community that welcomed refugee clinics from around the world, from different backgrounds who were fleeing persecution. And for me, it was my experience working there with a woman named Mary who was the director of the space, that really changed the way I saw the world. I came in it thinking that Canada was a happy, lovely world and a great place to be, and it still is, but there is also a lot of racism and discrimination that I was unaware of, being a very white, sheltered woman. And she told me that the work that we need to do is two parts. There's the caring for people, but there's also the advocacy and the action. And it's one foot that steps forward. If we don't have the research, if we don't have the human taking care of other humans, then we lose the humanity of each other. But we also need to push for change. And so that's kind of how I got into this work, was focusing on our mission.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Keys, and the work we do is with seasonal agricultural workers who come here every year under the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program. And the reason why we dedicate all of our life, our work, our community work, and everything we do is devoted to seasonal agricultural workers is because we have noted in our work that both the federal and provincial government not only fail to their legal obligation to protect decent work and human rights, but they also foster and promote and incentivize abusive working conditions, which lead to a de facto labor apartheid in Canada that not many people are aware of, through programs and policies in the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program. And workers who come and put food on our table every year for over 8 months. They experience family separation, barriers accessing healthcare. They're excluded from community and family life every year. In a farm near you, where we ask for people to consume local, thinking that that will fix our problems, well, there are human rights violations happening every day. Verbal, physical abuse from racist employers, where workers are prohibited from organizing labor unions, and unlike almost every other immigration stream, they will never have an option and a pathway to permanent residency, even after 20 or 25 years of devoting their life to put food on our table. And this is a reality for racialized minors who come from the Caribbean nations, Mexico and South America, Central America. And so that's why we work really hard connecting with our community, because we know their work reflects our human rights, and that's mainly the work we do.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jay again. I come to this advocacy back in 2013 when we first launched Migrant Alberta. Migrant Alberta is an advocacy group promoting on the welfare and rights of migrant workers coming from Philippine background. I devoted my time in this kind of pathway because I think as an ordinary citizen we have obligation. And also it comes with the government and other institutions that they do have an obligation to fulfill in terms of inviting workers to work in Canada. We focus on educating, organizing, and mobilizing migrant workers so that they will be able to execute and exercise freely what are their rights and what are at stake for them when working into Canada, and not a lot of migrant workers are aware of. And also, we are also promoting into some actions. So we want concrete actions, not just a lip service that we give, but also some change in the mindset of our politicians, change in the mindset of the citizen, and also change in the mindset of migrant workers and migrants in particular on how we could live, work, and enjoy this place. Thank you.
And hear their experiences and the issues that they have observed and experienced while working and advocating for the dignity of these workers. Now, on to our topic, the right to decent work. The question that we pose to our panelists is that, how might we make decent work and research and how might we make decent work research and advocacy an exciting proposition to grassroots-based organizations like Action Unity and other grassroots organizations and partners of Action Unity and others who are working to defend human rights. So I will start with Elise here.
One way, as someone who comes as a community organizer from Calgary, the Alliance for Common Good, I think one way that we can do that is through creating power through relationships. We're in the business of creating power. We're in the business of finding people in different communities who are passionate about the issues that their communities are facing, their families are facing, and are willing to work together across lines of difference to make change. And so when I think about our human rights and the decent world work, that's the world as it should be. And in the Alliance we have, we talk about the world as it should be and the world as it is. And the world as it should be is beautiful and wonderful and equal and fair and great. And it's powered by love. And the world as it is powered by power and money and greed. And our work is to find that in between ground. Because just the human rights on themselves, as the Honorable Gitter was saying, the document itself that's been 75 years old, it's just a document, unless we put it into action. And so that's the idea, is that we work with people across lines of difference, from different institutions, from churches, mosques, synagogues, from ethno-cultural communities, from different unions and other civil associations. And we all come together to have a combined voice to make a change. And so we've had conversations about different things with the mayor, and she has said that the Calgary Alliance is one of the people that she listens to, because she knows that it's not just one organization, but it's in fact 32 organizations that represent 35,000 people here in Calgary. And that's power. Making that change, and you can be a part of that. Action Dignity can be a part of making that change. So the idea is that power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic, but power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice is at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. That's a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. And we quote a lot of civil rights leaders because organizing is a tradition that goes back to the 1940s, with unions and communities coming together to make changes in their community. And that's the idea, is that we work together. And that's something that I think that Action Dignity can be a part of. You all come from different communities and have different issues, and coming together and sharing a voice, we can make change in the city and the province and even bigger. The Calgary Alliance is one of 98 different affiliates around the world. So we've got partners in the US, the partners in New Zealand, we've got folks in, and we've learned from their experience when it comes to having, working with governments around decent work, but also fair wage campaigns, living wage campaigns. And this is the long history of the Alliance goes back to community organizing. If anyone's ever heard that Barack Obama was a community organizer, that's what this is. Getting people together to have these conversations, to listen to each other in their own communities, having one-on-one relational meetings, meaning that you meet with someone and find out what they're interested in, what they're passionate about, what their family's dealing with right now, and then together you form communities that can take care of that. Core teams within your own community, who then listen to the larger community and discern what issues you want to actually take on and bring to the larger alliance that's all across the city. And in that process, you get to meet people from places and backgrounds you never thought you would have a conversation with. You get to sit in rooms where you never thought you'd be a part of. You get to sit in the room with the mayor and ask them directly, why aren't you, what's going on in this situation, why are you not doing anything about this? You get to sit with the police chief and ask for indigenous liaison workers, officers who can represent their communities better, cultural community officers who can be that liaison with the police force. Those kinds of things that need to change so that we have safer and stronger communities. That's what we do. And so, and the big thing that we push is the iron rule, that you don't do anything that someone can't do for themselves, and that the people who have the problems are the people who are also going to solve them. So I don't go in with the answers. We generate the answers from the community itself. So I want you to be a part of that.
Thank you. I'm able to summarize everything that she said, but we'll be going back to her later when we have time. So she talked about power, the power of the people, and the power of collective action. And now, Vanessa, we've been working together when we were doing our push for essential workers' rights. Can you tell us more about how might we make this kind of advocacy tick to the rest of us and to have more people be engaged?
Thank you, and I have to agree with Alyssa's words. It's about relationships. It's about getting to know each other. It's about working together and making those connections, because although we all come from different communities, many of the issues we face are similar, and many of the oppressions we face are coming from the same place. So I think the more open we are to participate and work together with different communities, with different community leaders. Like, for example, like a personal experience of mine is having worked with Jay, who's a long life organizer, and just like a tremendous inspiration, and just learning from other organizations that are doing a great job, like Canadian South and Series here, like supporting us all the way. And I just think working together is so powerful because we learn from each other. And in the particular case of agricultural workers, we believe that there's a human rights crisis in our fields, in the fields of Canada, and there's two big advocacies that we work on. And the first one is support every effort for a more just and equal immigration system. And I'm a social studies teacher, and I often tell my students that, when you're fighting for a more just society, you're fighting for everyone. Even though coming from different places, I say we all benefit from working for a more just and equal immigration system, because we all know someone in our life that has experienced unfairness in their immigration system, who has experienced racism once within their application, who have wondered why is it that they cannot join their families in this country, right? And that's the case of agricultural workers, and that's the case of temporary foreign workers, that's the case of living caregivers. So we all know someone who has experienced that. And the other part is when everything individual, it's also political, right? So when we talk about demanding the right of agricultural workers to be able to unionize and to organize in a union, when when we're supporting those efforts for them to organize in the union, we're also talking about decent work for everyone. So politicizing ourselves, because all the decisions that are made at a political level, in the end, permeate into our personal lives, into the lives of our families, of our children. And when we're talking about investing in public services, that's public education, that's public healthcare, that's responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, that's a whole bunch of things. So I feel like empathy, relationships, talking to each other, getting to know each other, building those connections are always a great way to invite others to participate.
So, I think for me, resiliency is overrated. Coming from an immigrant background, from my perspective, is that okay, you be patient, at least you have a job, be resilient. But I think it's time to speak up. It's time to address those issues of inequalities. It's time to address the issues of precariousness among migrant workers in general, and also to demand some changes to our politicians. Because like what our first panelist said, the power is within us. It's not from them, it's from us. So if we have that so much power to change, and we have that so much power to put this politician into power, we have that the same power to address this inequality, to address these oppressive issues, to address these oppressive practices, and also to address the laws that are no longer applicable nowadays. So we have to be the stronger we are, the louder we are in terms of advocating for our equal rights, the stronger that the community and even the government will listen to us. I do believe that in Canada, modern day slavery exists because the system permits it. Coming from looking at the living caregiver, the changes in the current living caregiver program under the immigration policy, it's not because one day the minister decided to change it. There are so many advocates, lobbyists in promoting the changes to that program so that living caregivers are not tied up to a single employer. Living caregivers are not precarious in their living situation, and even with the pandemic, the COVID-19, it exposes so much of these policies and these laws, this system in place that are not effective, that are not relevant. I think the stronger, the louder we are in asking and advocating for the protection and the rights of every worker, from the precariousness, from the laws that are not essential anymore. So it is us that is really affected by these laws. So I think we need to organize again. We need to organize. We need to educate ourselves of our rights. We need to participate, not only participating but also doing some action. If there's some engagement in the community, like what others, my colleagues here said, we need to be involved. We need to be informed, not just informed, but also analyze how our community is being affected by the sudden changes.
It is the power of collective action. So my next question to our panelists is that, how do you actually do this? What activities can you walk us through how grassroots-based organization, when we talk about community-based research? the power of the people through this grassroots organization is what we're talking about in our partnership regarding research action teams. The point is, what are these and what does it entail for us when we talk about in terms of time, in terms of how many people do we have to talk to?
Part of the work is building community and building relationships. And so in the cycle of organizing, we have listening. And you guys have been doing that already with the campaigns that you've been going out and talking to people about discrimination and experiencing with mental health issues, other kinds of things. These are the things that are already happening. And so other parts are creating a core team. So sometimes that's called an advocacy group, sometimes that's called a social justice group, whatever you want to do. It's creating a team that can rely on each other and can do this work together. And be representatives in their community, looking for other people who are passionate and have stories that they can share that will change the way people see the issues. Because it's not numbers and statistics that actually speak volumes, it's people's experiences and the story that they have. And so finding those people within their own communities. So the research action teams, for example, are collections of different people who come together because of their interest and their passion about one subject. So for example, we have a research action team around truth and reconciliation. And these people come together and once a month, they meet up and talk about who it is that they've talked to that month and what information have they gathered. So they don't need to be experts, they need to be passionate about finding the people who are. And those people then help us understand how power works in the city, how power works in the province, and who it is that we need to talk to make a change. Because we could spend hours and hours doing research and talking about things and going to conferences, but that's not actually going to make change. And so the research action teams are the people who are going to find out, okay, who is it that we need to have the yes from to get the yes that we need on a big scale. So those are the research action teams, and once a month they meet, and then they also have meetings with other folks, and they do actions. And so part of it is being able to be there and for example, the budget team, which Miriam was the co-chair for, which was very lovely. The budget team they had meetings set up with councillors across the city and asked them to commit to certain things. So is it commit to the transit passes or Indigenous liaison officers in every district. These are the kinds of things, these really tangible things that we can win. That's the focus. Is when we look at things in taking on poverty, taking on racism, these are huge and insurmountable. But when we break it down to an issue that we can actually win on, that's where we can slowly start to make change. So.
Thank you. And then, final round before we go to our audience to ask for reaction. Vanessa and Jay, what other collaborative actions that we can do together as we move forward into 2023?
We organize visits to migrant agricultural workers in rural Alberta. We gather with winter clothes because migrant workers who are in precarious immigration status need systemic change, but they also have immediate needs. So that's why we gather different donations from the community. We store it until the winter starts, because that's when they arrive here in Canada every year. And so we bring that to them. We advocate in different platforms on a national level. We partner with the Migrant Rights Network. You can look up, you can join. They have many different activities, lots of campaigns that they work on. And on a local and provincial level, we organize the Meet Alberta. We try and support them in their work. And the most important thing, as Liz mentioned, is relationships. And sometimes we get requests, for example, from the media, because everyone wants to get that juicy story about the migrant worker who's suffering abuse in a farm. And it's a very interesting story for the media, but we protect to the greatest extent our relationships, because we need to give a voice, and we need to We need to create those opportunities for them to speak out their stories, but they have to be safe spaces. So many times we have to say, you can talk to me, because we have to protect their identity, we have to protect, they can be sent back, reported, and all. So it's a complex work, but it's important work to protect our relationship, something that we have learned from our brothers and sisters in Alberta. And so we also host a Migrant Rights Film Festival, which starts tonight. So if you want to join, look us up on Facebook. It's Migrant Rights Film Festival. You can look it up and you can watch our screening tonight. So that's one of the local things that we do every year in December. So there's one screening tonight and one on the 18th. So you're welcome to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I seconded that. I work closely with Vanessa. So with Migrant Alberta, there's an ongoing campaign for our undocumented migrant workers. There are estimated 1.5 million of undocumented migrant workers that are in Canada. So in Alberta alone, there are estimated at least 80,000 anecdotal guess numbers of undocumented migrant workers coming from different ethnicities. So I will give a little bit of insight about research. Research is very, very good. It gives us a little bit of social investigation, where we are, what's our species, what our situation, but it should not land only in the academy and among policymakers. It should be felt by every communities that are impacted by certain issues. And I think one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now, coming from a worker's perspective, is the inequality among our undocumented migrant workers. They have no healthcare access. There are some undocumented migrant workers that have children, and their children, basically they are Canadian because they're born in Canada, but due to the reason that they were born to an undocumented migrant workers, and then lack of healthcare, lack of access to services for children that a regular Canadian is enjoying, yet this Canadian-born children is not enjoying the same. I think those are the gaps that we need to address and we need to push. That's why regularization campaign is so important. That gives bringing back the dignity of migrant workers, bringing back the human rights that was once deprived, and it's so ironic that Canada relies so much on migrant workers, yet Canada is not a signatory of United Nations on the Declaration and Protection of Migrant Workers. I think that's a little bit, off the grid, because if you rely so much on migrant workers, but there's no laws that are in place to protect the migrant workers, they are in a disadvantaged position because of their precariousness. Their right to mobility is not there, which any Canadian, regular Canadian can enjoy. The Canadian-born child to an undocumented mother is not enjoying the same as a regular Canadian-born child to a Canadian parent. I think those are the issues that are just a few that we haven't discovered yet. And I think working with migrant workers as a community organizer is so important, because I've seen every day, I've heard every day, and lacking of support within the community, within some organizations, some services that's not important to them. I think that is blatantly closing your eyes, and we are workers of the world, so migrant workers are also human rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay, Vanessa, and Elise. Before you go, I heard there are two reactors from our friends from the teacher. Can I call on Master Khan?
Thank you. Thank you, and it's really nice to hear you there, and especially Honorable Brown here. As per the working conditions and especially pandemic, it definitely we know pandemic has disrupted our lives, and everybody here or even anywhere they are worried. They're worried about someone they love, and that could be a relative or a family member, or in general, you can say, or the entire community. They're worried about everything. So, in general, if we say we have to support the frontline workers, and the frontline workers, they are basically giving their time, and they're risking their lives, they're risking their health, basically for us. And there are ways to support them. We can basically support them emotionally, that's basically, and financially, or with manpower. Some organizations we can basically go and support them. Let's say, if emotionally we need to give them the space and we always appreciate them when we meet them anywhere, whether they're doctors, nurses, or grocery workers, like gas station attendants, right? So whenever we meet them, definitely we should appreciate them, we should appreciate their time, their work. And then I say, especially organizations, they need support financially or with manpower. So I know we, in general, we all can donate to those organizations. They support the frontline workers, or even like activists, those organizations. The way we can donate, or we can basically provide them manpower, which is basically a workforce to provide them, and just give them our time as a volunteer. So that is the best and the easiest way we can support is to go and volunteer with those organizations, especially the grassroots organizations like Myhangcanada, and we have even Maxwell, Canadians organization, or any other organization in your community, in your local community. To support them, go and give your time. That time definitely helps us, and that will bring that change in the community, and that comes and that support goes into the human rights and especially to the frontline workers. So thank you very much again.
Of ways of becoming a human rights defender, not just research and advocacy, and what Nasser is saying. Volunteer your time, that is very precious indeed. Can you show some hands here? Who has volunteered, who has any interest to volunteer as a human rights defender? Among us here, have you volunteered or would like to volunteer? And show hands. Thank you. I see more than 20 already for estimating. That's a big sign. One last thing. Are we calling you that to make a quick reaction here as well? And then we would like to see our panelists here. Those for the
joyful answer. I think this is an essential activity talking about human rights. And since we chose workers' rights, I think we came to a very important category of the society that people most of the time walk and just leave without understanding the condition and the circumstances that they are living. For me personally, I think changing
the mentality of how we look to people. Sometimes you said that, oh, my dad is a farmer. And just we look down at you. And I'm telling you the truth. Without this farmer, you will never have even a meal to eat. You don't have these apples. You don't have these tomatoes. You don't have these vegetables. I think the mentality on how we look at people, everyone is important. From the one who is sweeping the floor to the top manager at the top. Because who made you make this like wealth? This is the one of the people who are doing this wealth for you. It's not yours. So we all together. So for today, I think creating good environment for workers is one of the important things that the management should do. I'm not talking here about physical like environment only. I'm talking about mental health as well. So if you are a good manager, so everyone from the one who's cleaning the company for you to the top department is very important. Create healthy relationship. Have a room for them for claims. Give them a day off to have a leave for something if they have family issues. See whoever don't have transportation. How do we solve this together? Have a core group in your department, like periodically, like monthly, do talk about the issues, the positive things, and the issues. Act as a manager when people tell you there is a problem somewhere. I think if we change the mentality and we take care of everyone and we feel that everyone is important, no one is disabled. You are disabled only when your spirits and your soul is disabled. So everyone could do something. So I believe the workers are very important, especially the meat packers, for people who love the meat. If you love meat, and those meat packers didn't do the work on a strike. You go to the store, you don't find anything. Tell me, what do you feel at that moment? I think everyone is important, and we have to take care of human rights and just love for humanity. You are lucky love. Love is a healing for everything. If you love your employees and take care of them, they will love you, your company, they will work very hard, and when you have the lost time, they will never leave you alone.
Amazing and very insightful comment from our participants from the future. Thank you so much. There's a question for Jay here. Do the children from the documented workers get education? Do they go to school? Very quick answer, and then we will have, let me show you, we will have a networking section later on, so you can meet our panelists and have a conversation later. And you can exchange the numbers and email addresses as well.
Thank you for your question and your interest in understanding the life of an undocumented parent. They do go to school because, number one, they are Canadian born. It's just they have a birth certificate that they can get from the registry. It's just the mother that is the problem, because access to help is the issue. We had lobbied for this campaign before. It's called McKenna Rose campaign, where we lobbied for the children born to undocumented mother to have access to health care. And that was in 2015. I think we worked with Action Unity together, and I think it was given by the government. And all the Canadian-born children born to undocumented mother have access to health care. And education also, they can go to school because they have a birth certificate coming from the government, from the registry, because they were born here. But the access to health is one of the main issues. But with the advocacies that we did, with the collective actions, And Action Dignity plays part of it. Assembly of Social Workers, Migrante Alberta, other organizations supporting human rights and dignity. We made it possible to claim that, and it did not only benefit McKenna, who is the child to an undocumented mother, but also all the children that are born to an undocumented mother from every ethnicity. They were given that access. I think it's okay now and they're enjoying, and most of the children are grade 3, grade 4, and I think that's one of the successful and a testament that collaboratively, collective voices, working together, pushing for the betterment of every members in the community is a testament of we can achieve and we can work together if we are louder and bigger.
We are louder and bigger. Thank you so much for panelists Jay, Vanessa, and Elise. Now I'd like to turn this over to Mara, and as I said, we can continue our conversation during the networking time.
Thank you so much, Miriam. We just have 10 minutes left, so we just want to rush through that. Before moving on to the next performance, I was looking at the audience and I noticed that we have so many children here today, so thank you for bringing children, because I think it's important that children should know, they need to know how to get help when they feel at risk, and they also need to understand how rights apply to them in their lives. And as what Ronald mentioned, we need to have human rights education at school, and we should, and we need to push that together. And with that, we have these two beautiful girls from Universal Lives Band, one of the partner organization called Việc. They will be perform a beautiful song from Afghanistan. Right? So please welcome Ria and Newcomers. Thank you so much.